2022 Nissan Armada Platinum is this huge body on frame the perfect answer for families needing to get to swim practice today. We're also going to the zoo, Target possibly, and hopefully we can get some sushi mixed in there as well. And we're running a little bit late, go figure, with a family of 6 and the littles being extra little still. Luckily we have a 400 horsepower naturally aspirated V8 and we're just gonna roll into it. And it's made it to a 7-speed automatic, and it just sounds so well. There's an Armada in front of us right there. I think it's the exact same trim as this. Actually, no, maybe a little bit lesser, but it had what looked like the 22-inch wheels, which this one does as well. And I guess that's a good segue. So the engine, the transmission are great, and one of my favorite things about this vehicle, fuel economy is not, which, I mean, revving it out to over 6,000 RPM is not going to help. The MPGs, I'm getting like 15, 16 miles per gallon on this thing. The flip side is that you can tow like a house with this vehicle if you need to. Oh, there's a QX80 there, which looks nearly identical. And I know some of you had some questions about the QX80 from Infiniti. We'll address those. Cassie will ask me those questions at the end. But let's talk about the exterior design of the Armada. You know, it was redesigned in 2016 for the 2017 model year. We're on the 2nd generation Armada, and luckily, it is now based off the legendary Nissan Patrol. The Patrol for Nissan is what the Land Cruiser is for Toyota. Like, this vehicle is built in Japan, and when the vehicle comes here, my understanding is they slot the V8 that's built here stateside. I think it's built in Tennessee for the Titan, and they slot it in once it arrives on our shores. So pretty much it's a Japanese-made vehicle with an American-made V8, a very proven V8. Okay, so we know it's based off the Patrol. It does look a little bit different than the Patrol. We do have the C-clamp headlights, that's what I call them, and we also have a big redesigned V-Motion grille after the 2021 refresh. I think it's a very handsome, huge body on frame SUV, and there's not a whole lot you can do with designing these things because they're just big boxes on wheels. I mean, check out my 4Runner review last week, but I still am enamored by the Armada ever since it came to the United States as a 2nd gen. And when I'm driving out on the streets, the only vehicles that feel bigger than me are lifted pickup trucks like the F-150 that just passed me.
What is that?
That is a Kia Seltos. They can't make enough of them right now. But what do you think about that green color?
It fits the car.
Yellow?
For some reason.
It's like a snotty yellow. It's bad. It's a bad color. But once you get past the baller exterior design on this Platinum trim, which, by the way, if I haven't said it costs $71K, it does. But when you get on side, we're met with some gorgeous quilted brown seats. I typically hate brown, but for the fact that I just realized that they're brown, I've been driving this all week, means it's a very neutral color. We also, in this Platinum trim, have opulent bird's eye maple wood, and a ton of it. It really throws me back to like the mid to early 2000s and the amount of glossy, delicious wood that is appointed in this vehicle. We also have tons of stitching around the center console, around the screen, and around the dash here. You also have a brown stitching on the brown seats. The door panels are just as ornately detailed with the maple wood as well as the leather material. Like this vehicle feels just as luxurious as the luxury plated Infiniti QX80. The steering wheel doesn't telescope as far out as I would like it to. Luckily, we have a handle at the bottom. I can just rest my hand. It is kind of thin, and the steering is pretty light in here. We have the same shifter. It's not only on the Frontier, but also like the entry-level Sentra. Well, I shouldn't say the entry-level Sentra. It's on the top grades of the Sentra. You get this kind of leather-cladded shifter. It is not very luxurious, and maybe that's where you can get a little bit more luxury in the QX80. We have a large 12-inch touchscreen here. It has Apple CarPlay wireless, but wired Android Auto. That's fine with me. My phone is actually charging through the wireless charger underneath this cool little bird's eye maple hiding space. Charger works really, really well. I've only had it like not charge once. We have 4 knobs, not only volume, save the volume if you haven't checked out my Live Long t-shirt series, Live Long volume knob. We have a tuning knob as well as dual climate control knobs, heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, of course. Everything in here is super functional. The only thing in terms of functionality in this vehicle that doesn't work very well for the front passengers we only have 2 cup holders and there's not a lot of storage. I mean, I could lift up the huge glove box here, which does have additional storage, but it's kind of out of the way. It's not the easiest to get to, like while you're driving. So the cup holders here are really, and you have some in the door panel, but that's, you know, a reach, which I'm not going to do. Getting into the brakes there. The vehicle, I love how this vehicle brakes. It's super predictable, nice linear brake feel. It kind of feels a little bit similar to the 4Runner's brake feel last week, which is, as expected, it's a big body on frame Japanese SUV. You can get this in 2-wheel drive, not the Platinum, I don't think, but other trims you can. This is auto 4 high, 4 low. You can also put it into 4 high, 4 low, like if you want to yourself. And this is it's a Nissan Patrol essentially. So this thing is going to be a complete beast off-road, which I don't think I've ever seen a Nissan Armada in the States taken off-road. I know they're more than capable, but yeah, especially the 2nd gen is going to be perfectly fine if you're living in wintry conditions. This thing is an absolute tank. Now getting into the 2nd row, we don't have adjustable seats forward and back, so that kind of limits the 3rd row space, but it's not set up for adults in that 3rd row. You don't have that much cargo space behind that 3rd row either. So the functionality of this, as the kids are coughing like crazy, the functionality of this vehicle for a large family like mine is still not ideal. A minivan is still going to be preferable, and unfortunately Nissan doesn't have the Quest anymore, so this is like, and this as well as the Pathfinder are your only options. And I like this a lot better than the Pathfinder, but I hate to say it, the Pathfinder is actually a little bit more functional for my family, but I just love this vehicle way more than the Pathfinder as well. I mean, it costs a lot more as well, and yeah, V8 life. We do have a 360 camera on here. It's not the highest quality, but it is definitely a welcome addition to such a large SUV like this. We also have a rotary dial like Mazda, for example, that does communicate with the touchscreen, but I pretty much use the touchscreen 99% of the time over this rotary dial. Back to the 2nd row, this Platinum Edition has screens built into the headrest. They can take USBs, they can take SD cards, but there's no Blu-ray or DVD system in here. And I have my Fire Stick plugged in, and strangely, there's no way for me to select the HDMI audio. So the kids would either have to listen to the headphones, but it only comes with 2 headphones. So they would have to, like, I don't know. I plugged in a Bluetooth speaker that's plugged in through an auxiliary cord to make it work. So they're listening to Encanto right now. That's wireless hotspotted through my phone that's charging in the center console here. So it is a complete nightmare. It's about as functional as the Toyota Sienna's system, which is not functional at all. So you're better off not getting that dual screen entertainment system. Just spend that extra $2,000 or whatever on iPads or Kindle Fires or whatever, so your kids can have those even outside of the car. It's not a good investment here. And I think there's only 4 USBs. We have 2 up front and 2 in the back, but you do have a plug-in, so you could, you know, run an extension cord in here, but it's just not as convenient as having a plethora of USBs in this vehicle. And this is a little bit old school. We do have traditional analog tachometer and speedometer with a very high detailed MID in the middle that gives me all the information I want. I love this setup. It never needs to go away. I don't need this replaced with a fully digital screen. Long live analog gauges. I probably need to have that in my my series for long live merchandise. Yeah, long live analog gauges. I tested the radar cruise control this week. It works really well. It brings the vehicle to a stop, but it does beep when you come to the stop because it turns off, and then it reminds you, hey, it's not stop and go radar cruise control. Also, the lane alert is really annoying. So I've just turned off, like, you know, the Nissan safety system on here, which is a button on the steering wheel, because if you just slightly go out of the lane, steering wheel vibrates like a game of Operation, and it doesn't. And there's also an instance where, like, really slowed down the vehicle just for me, like going over the dotted lines in the lane. So I turned it off. It doesn't work very well. You can tell it's kind of been retrofitted for this vehicle. But we also have a digital rear view mirror, which I was not expecting in this vehicle. So that's really cool. And you really don't see that in any like Lexuses at this point. Maybe the Lexus NX, maybe the LS, but it's like even rare on luxury vehicles. It comes in handy because the 3rd row child seats back there take up a good part of the rear view mirror, so actually having the digital display is a nice feature. Okay, typical Lexus ES drivers here, halfway in the turning lane. Oh yeah, probably line was too long for Starbucks, but yeah, exactly. Sound system in here is actually a little underwhelming. I was expecting for a vehicle of this price and size for it to have some punch to it. It's not bad, but they could do a lot better. I guess that would be one reason, go for the QX80, a superior audio system in theory. We're just gonna punch it here. Oh my gosh. I'm never going to get good gas mileage in this vehicle regardless, so you might as well have fun revving out this naturally aspirated beast of a 5.6 liter V8. Man, that 400 horse just feels so good. Like, this thing weighs so much. I don't know off the top of my head, I'll put it in there, but it never feels like this engine is outmatched by the size of this vehicle. It's awesome. All right, it's time to get in your questions, and what better co-host for this session than my wife, Cassie. Cassie, go ahead and take it away.
Talvin Tans 95. Nice. Is the QX80 really worth the extra money over the Armada?
No, no, it's definitely not worth the extra money to buy the Infiniti unless you gotta have that luxury badge. But right now, the Infiniti brand is sinking really quickly. So just go with the Nissan. They might be around a lot longer than Infiniti.
All right, A. Collins MB17. Why is it still being made?
Well, I hope they keep making this until they're no longer allowed to make it. This vehicle is amazing, and like, I like it a lot more than the 4Runner I was in last week. The V8 smoothness is probably a big part of it, and I just love the full-size SUV frame sort of vehicle. And we don't have the Land Cruiser here anymore, so I love that the Nissan Armada, especially since it's built in Japan, and just finally assembled here in the United States, it is in the market. I hope it stays around for a long time.
All right, Baden says length. Will it fit in a reasonable garage?
I actually don't know. I'll try that when I get home, and I'll post those images and videos for you.
All right, Damiola Akini. When is the new generation coming? What engine or engines will power it? Hybrid in the works? Will it get the 9-speed automatic transmission from the Titan?
Okay, so that is a loaded question. Yeah, it's a loaded question. I'll do my best here. All right, so this came out as a 2017 model year. So in theory, in a couple more years, we should have a redesign. But the best thing we have to go off of is that the Infiniti dealers were shown a redesigned QX80, which is the same vehicle, right? So that vehicle will probably come out in a couple of years, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Infiniti actually gets it before Nissan. But okay, let's say it comes out in 2 years, best case scenario. They will probably, unfortunately, get rid of the V8 and put the 3-liter twin turbo that we see in the upcoming Z. Tune it a little bit differently for torque, but we know that engine is at stock form 400 horsepower, 350 pound-feet. But this thing has like over around 415 pound-feet of torque. So they need to change the tuning, the turbos, etc., on that twin turbo V6 in order for it to be efficient or sufficient and more efficient than this naturally aspirated V8. I'm not excited about it, just like I'm not that excited about the twin turbo V6 in the Tundra, in the LX, etc., in the Sequoia, but we just haven't seen any evidence from Nissan giving us hybrids on their larger vehicles, so don't get your hopes up there. And fully electric is probably even further away.
Balance mode. I love it. I hope it comes in Nismo and manual. Manual, yeah.
Yeah. So the Nismo version of this actually exists in the world in the Middle East. They have the Patrol Nismo, and it has like 428 horsepower. And different, it has like a body kit and stuff. So I know you're kind of joking, but that vehicle is real and exists, and I think it's completely silly. And instead, they should have given it the off-road treatment, as this vehicle is more designed for off-road.
Forever Ride. Is this a good Land Cruiser replacement since we don't get it here anymore? Can it be as reliable since other countries beat the CRAP out of the Patrols?
Yeah, so the Patrol does get put through the ringer in other parts of the world. Is it as reliable as a Land Cruiser? Probably not, but we don't have the Land Cruiser anymore, so this is probably one of the first choices for a lot of those potential Land Cruiser fans to have a fully body-on-frame V8 Japanese SUV, and it does it very, very well. And in fact, this vehicle is a lot more luxurious than the outgoing Land Cruiser ever was, at least here in America. So this sort of interior is more like QX80 or Lexus LX sort of quality.
All right, American Dude. Is it as big as a Sequoia? How's the MPG?
It feels bigger than a Sequoia, and yes, MPG is 14 to 16 miles per gallon. It's horrendous, but you can live with it because this vehicle gives you such a unique experience. Being so high off the ground, so smooth, so buttery smooth. Everything about it feels so well executed. The fit and finish, the build quality, the V8 is really, really good. I've always liked this V8 and its response and its power delivery better than the V8, the 5.7 liter V8 than we've seen in the Toyota lineup. We're all done with questions. We got a lot more stuff to do today. We just finished up swimming. We're heading to the zoo now. Maybe Target, maybe Sushi, depends on if we have any meltdowns. But yes, the final thoughts on the Nissan Armada. I love it. It's maybe my favorite Nissan vehicle, definitely my favorite Nissan truck SUV vehicle in their lineup. Unfortunately, right now gas is like doubled in the past year and a half or so, and that is making this vehicle a harder sell. But also, fortunately for this vehicle, the Land Cruiser is no longer available, making this an even better buy, a more tempting buy. And this is, in the second generation, to me, a much wiser buy because it is built in Japan. Only the V8 is slotted into it here in the United States, and I don't have any worries or doubts about the transmission or the engine. And just like I said with the 4Runner, I'm okay with them keeping that vehicle as it is for as long as possible because it provides such a nostalgic, smooth, and well-rounded experience, as well as a durable and reliable product that you're going to get for years and years to come. But I'm going to end it there. I'm sure you guys have a lot more to say down in the comments section below. Smash the like button if you haven't. That really helps me out. And subscribe for more Japanese, Korean auto news and reviews. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.